Yeah, we did also. We there for almost 3 weeks. We came home and we walked our son into his Michigan, his first apartment in the morning. We arrived at midnight and he had to move in. They have specific times. So luckily the mom was working with everything on the dining room table. So he didn't care. He's like, I have dishes, like, oh. So he has some.
But I do. I'm so happy. And they made me happy, yeah. All colors, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good, it's a good idea.
Also, I want to hear about your, but I think it's true. It's fine.
I think we're ready to roll.
I should have told you about it ahead of time.
Ready to start.
It's really cool.
Okay, guys,
Thank you.
we're ready to begin.
So she had back.
Ready? Are we live?
Yes, we're live.
Okay.
Thank you.
You don't usually do this.
Thank you, everybody. I'm so sorry for the delay. We were just getting IT up and running. Chris is helping us to figure this all out. So thank you, Chris.
Jessica helped.
And Jessica thankfully came in to help too.
Next.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here we go, with our September meeting of the Land Preservation Commission. Janine, would you call our roll?
Yes. Burkhart.
Daryl's not gonna be here today.
LaPrade here. Lynch.
Here.
Caput.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Redmond.
Yes.
Wiseman.
Here.
Also present. Lonick.
No.
And Chris Chang.
Here.
Okay, approval of our agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Tim,
Support.
and support by David. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Nobody opposed. The agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes from last month. I sent you a slightly updated set of corrected minutes last night. But are there any other corrections that you noticed that we need to make to the minutes? Thank you, Janine, for doing that. And if not, is there a motion and support to approve minutes?
So moved.
David,
Support.
Lisa, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes from last month are approved. Public comments. Jan's here. Do you have a public comment for us?
I don't, I'm just hanging out.
Okay, well, welcome. Chris, is there anyone online?
Yes, we have Rob Pattinson with his hand raised.
Okay. Rob?
Afternoon all, Rob Pattinson, Scio Township President. First things first, Chris, Zoom is not recording. And there's been some problems with audio on the live feed. So make sure you record all the meetings on Zoom as well, so we have a backup. And then on the agenda today, it notes that Janine and Tim and David are up for reapplying to be on the LPC. I strongly recommend all of you do that. The LPC is a very strong team, very strong committee. You guys do excellent work, and please keep that up. Liz, on the agenda packet, Granicus often chops up spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets. So I recommend when we get an Excel spreadsheet, we convert it to PDF.
Okay. Yes.
Yep. And then there was one other thing, but it skips my mind at the moment. So have a good meeting, everyone. Good to see you all.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
All right. Moving on to reports. David had some reports in the packet, and he will also have a report from Tuesday.
Yep, we did meet nights ago, and we did approve the to at least negotiate with the owners of 2025-1 and 2025-3. I know one will be a negotiation, the other is be pretty easy, I guess. We also took care of our approved going forward with the negotiation for the easements.
On the Levine property.
On the, yeah, both of them. Yep, yeah. And although it's not necessarily, well, it's information. We officially denied the developments for Piper Ridge, which is on Parkland Plaza, which was 67 homes on 7.7 acres. And an unnamed development on the KFC property, which was 47 homes on 47 acres. Each, and they were planning to be between 700,000 or 800,000 to 900,000 on the KFC property.
What were the main reasons for denying?
Oh, let me count the ways. Well, for Piper Ridge, it was, I called it, well, almost like projects. They were so close and they were packed in. There were buildings that they were attached, single family homes, but they were between 3, 4, 5, and I think there were 2 buildings that had 7. A row of 7 homes.
In Parkland Plaza?
Yeah, and one in Parkland
Yeah.
Plaza. And they were scheduled to remove, I think, 450 trees.
Oh, my God.
All 27 landmark trees.
Oh, my God.
Now, the prior people, we approved a high rise for seniors. I think it was 90 some odd living units. And they were approved to remove X number of trees. I think it was maybe 100. But it turns out they removed 1,000 because the count for that property was 1,500 trees. The count for this property was only 500 trees. So somehow we lost 1,000 trees. I don't know how, but they were not approved to remove 1,000. And because they abandoned the project, it never came in. The front of the project is kind of overgrown. You really can't see in very well. Anyway, so either that or there was a miscount. I'm not sure. I mean,
Pretty big miscount.
pretty big miscount. Yeah.
Where is that one, David, that moved 1,000?
The Parkland Plaza. At the end of Parkland Plaza, there's a cul-de-sac that goes into Scio View, just on the left as you're going south on the left side. Is the open, 7.7 acres.
I have pictures of the trees that were removed. It was astounding. Astounding.
Yeah. So. And the KFC was, again, all crowded in. They had issues with water. They wanted to bring a water main under 94, 2 water mains actually, one going in, one like a loop. And the utilities director said, no, I can't do that. That's an extra mile or mile or more piping that they have to manage. So that wasn't a non-starter. And they weren't removing as many trees as the other one, but, and also they were all packed in. It was like a little conclave, $1 million homes. And the Parker Ridge was, I think the starting price was gonna be, he says, oh yeah, that'll be affordable. It's gonna be 400 or 450,000 starting prices, which it's, maybe in other parts, well, I don't wanna go down that road. I don't think that's affordable. They're not, let's put it this way, they're not starter homes. So they're affordable for somebody moving from California.
Right, exactly.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think that's my report. Did I miss
Yeah,
anything?
but I just wanted, so if you read all David's reports plus this one, the board has acted on all 5 of the recommendations that we made last month, which is really something we can all appreciate. It was spread over 2 meetings. And that worked out well, because here we are, he can report that we've had action on all of those. And we're gonna go ahead with some of these larger projects, which is very exciting. Okay, is that good all for you? Okay, and Jan, I sent you all her planning commission report. So that's in the packet. Parks met yesterday, and I have a little bit of a report. The old Syker property is going to have a parking lot of some sort on Park Road. But the road commission has, and I don't know what they are, but there are a bunch of conditions that the road commission has for a parking lot in that location. I don't know if they were, or if it was not there yesterday, so I don't have more information, but that is delayed for now. that parking lot. So,
That's on the sacred property.
yes, and can we talk about, I guess we can, about the naming of that?
Well, we haven't officially named it. but
No, we
yeah,
haven't.
We, I think, Murphy needs to bring a motion to the board to do it.
Yes,
But we also need to bring, maybe we need to put together a narrative on how preserves are named. The three different ways,
is that
natural
for us?
features, I'm sorry.
Is it, you think we should do it or parks? And so the working, but we do have a working idea, right?
Right. Well, it probably should come from parks. You're right. It probably should come from parks, but we can certainly give her input on the three ways. to do it.
What are the three reasons?
Natural features like Liberty Pond, where it's located, like
Mhm.
Marshall Park, and family request. Like Curler, Marshall, the other Marshall Park. Now, the Syker didn't ask about this, did they?
No.
So the natural feature, Syker would be five oaks.
So there are 5 different species of oak
Oh, right, well, you were, yeah.
in that,
Okay.
property.
5 Oaks.
So the working, our working discussion has been about possibility of calling it 5 Oaks Preserve.
I like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's,
So that's a 40-acre piece.
oh, so how big is Cypherberry?
We bought 3 different pieces.
And so is Parks taking over all of them?
Yeah,
Oh,
and if there's a trail through there.
oh, no opportunity for a farmer to.
Not on that one.
5 acres, all right.
It might be on one of the others, but it might be a specific type of farm.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Murphy, it's an idea she's working on. Or that would lend the crop. As she described it to me, she should describe it, but it's something about harvesting late, which would be not very financially feasible for the farmer, but harvesting late to let the crop stand for late or ground nesting birds. Something like that. I don't know. You know.
That's as much as I know.
Corn?
I don't know if it would be corn or hay or what. I don't know. Whatever.
That property was 93 acres in total. Wow, it's 3 different parcels.
3.
Yep.
Right, got it. So the far west property is adjoining the other, resort, right? That's where.
Correct.
Yeah.
I would never have spelled Syker the way it's supposed to be spelled.
I know, isn't it?
You know,
How's it spelled?
Cykiert,
Not ever.
right?
so,
I started with an S.
That's- Anyways, thanks to the article that was in MLive about it, I figured it out.
well, I'm sorry, one more thing.
Yeah.
Isn't there some kind of special, ecosystem in the soil?
Yes.
Something special about it, what is that?
I don't know what it's called. It's yes, I do know what it's called, but I don't remember.
Rare.
I think there's a
Type
rare,
of
some sort of
soil.
rare species
There's a rare.
that has been unidentified so far.
Species of what?
Well, that's what we don't know, but it's intentionally unidentified right now to protect it.
She doesn't want to advertise it because she doesn't want people going out there and trying to catch them. So until we figure out what it is. But it's also can't remember the name of it's in my report.
Probably a bobolink, so I'm guessing.
It's a kind of forest ecosystem that's
Oh.
rare, well, it's rare around here.
Yeah, okay, great.
So that's the sacred property, the summer, I call them the summer people, who are working on for parks, but they're the gnats, that means
Natural area
area
technician.
technicians, they are just working on invasive species removal. Particularly at Liberty Pond, which is just being transformed if you ever go out there. And Murphy is leading 3 programs this fall. If you're interested, they are on the website. 2 are on bats, and they will be here at Township Hall Park, and the third one is Nighttime Creatures, I think, and that's at West Scio Reserve. That if you're interested, you can sign up for those. And that's my update for parks. And then Jan is here. Jan, I wonder if you would want to give a quick update on the board action on your proposal from Tuesday?
Sure. We have a food composting program that's gonna launch in Scio. So, we are preparing a web page and we should probably be ready to start taking food waste. It'll be food waste and, BPI, certified materials. So, there will be right out here, there will be a couple of, carts that will be enclosed, and there'll be certain hours, and people can come and drop off food waste and any BPI certified products. We'll be running some educational sessions that'll be recorded, so people enroll to participate, so we'll be able to track the number of participants and the volume of materials. And we hope that through some outreach that we'll be doing, be able to get out there. And the educational sessions are also gonna talk a little bit about how you can compost at home too. And it won't include any yard waste. This is just food and BPI. So hopefully we can get to zero waste in Township Hall and the fire department.
And BPI is,
Oh, it's a certification that there are some plastics and so forth that under a high heat industrial composting will go to compost. So you can, so that way we can do liners, which makes things much tighter.
I tried to compost my plastic BPI, but
It doesn't.
when I
no.
was getting the compost out, I had to take all the plastic out.
Yeah, well, this will take it, so what'll be so nice is you could, yes, if you do a zero waste event or whatever, I mean, it's just, and we'll put it in the kitchens and yay, I think it'll be cool. So anyway,
So
looking.
that's
forward to it.
exciting. Yeah, it's a 1-year pilot, so if y'all are interested, tell your friends and get involved and we'll. make
Yeah,
it-
and we'll have it, an
Yeah.
enrollment on the website, and the sustainability fair, we're gonna be launching it, too. And that's with my, Michigan, people are familiar with those. That's where Zingerman's, and it goes to Spurt, is the composting site. And U of M uses that composting site because they wanted to maintain the ability to use the BPI.
Oh, thanks, Jan.
And when is that again? When is it?
Oh, drop off will probably start November 1st, but we're gonna be doing education and enrollment in October.
How about ESCF? I mean, that pretty much what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Environmental
That's-
Sustainability
yeah.
Task Force. That's that. And any updates on the fair, the sustainability fair?
I have to submit the zoning application, because we have to, have a little application for our tent. But the fire department's gonna have a fire truck there, Wave will have their little thing. We got a donation for a home blower door test. So we're gonna have a drawing and someone will get a free home blower door test. In addition to, if you play bingo, you can get little pick up prizes. And bingo, you have to visit the tables of all 7 focus groups, and then you can choose your prize. So
Yeah, I think we'll have farmers contributing a bag of produce or whatever. For the prizes too.
Yep.
And then we all, hope to see you all.
The date again is
Go up.
October 5th.
October 5th, yep.
Yeah, 12 to 3:30 is the running of the fair, and the EV Association, the Southeast EV folks will be there too. So it's probably a little late to get the tax the tax credits for an EV, but we still want to promote.
Those
What's
are
the time
EV
again?
car, I'm sorry.
The time 12 to 3:30.
Those are EV cars. There's also gonna be some EV bikes to test out.
So yeah, lots of fun.
Thanks, Jan.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to old business, Daryl is not here. I know she would be here if she could, so I think something came up and she just wasn't able to make it. Any questions that you all have, I would say, email them to her or wait, on those. Anything you want to talk about on financials? I know she'll talk about them next month, but
Well, she has some concern about having enough money to do all.
I just think she said she just wanted to lay it out there. I don't think she has concerns, about having enough, but she wanted to sort it out so that we all can have it in front of us as we're looking at it.
Okay, so we'll have that next time.
Well, yeah, I'm sure she'll talk about this. I don't know of any federal grant funding update. Do you, Barry?
Just briefly, Legacy filed an appeal for the RCPP rescindment. And there's a hearing, I believe it's on the 22nd of this month. It's a virtual hearing. I have not seen information about it. I just asked Susan from Legacy for the time. And I was asked to provide some testimony,
No
so
kidding.
we'll do that. I think it's gonna be just to say, you know, we had some landowners that were lined up, take advantage of those funds, and there's no other way we can fund these projects, and they're good conservation projects. And I'm not sure what the venue is for the hearing. Legacy found it out and submitted the appeal. And I'm not sure what chance we have of succeeding, but it's there, so we thought, what the heck, let's do it. See what happens. You never
And there
know.
have been some reversals from the administration on, you know, things that they cut out, said later on, we better leave those in place, so maybe.
We'll see, fingers crossed. The other thing I'll report is that it did apply here, but very late in the process, like mid-August. I got several emails from NRCS staff in East Lansing for ASEP awards. 2 in Northfield, 1 in Webster. You know, there were 3 application rounds. Most recently here,
Except there's
Agricultural Conservation Easement Program. The first 2 were with Inflation Reduction Act money that was withdrawn as well. The third one was for the regular farm bill money, which was only about 1.2 million, I think. And I think it was over maybe $3.6 million worth of requests. And it was unknown whether those funds would be available either. But lo and behold, got offers for 3 awards. So we jumped on those. They were all for smaller properties. I was kind of surprised because usually that program is targeted toward larger properties. But we're all signed up for those. So at least that money came through. The agreements have been signed. And the end of the federal fiscal year is the end of this month. So there was a rush to get everything done. But I think we've accomplished that now. So for what it's worth,
Great.
that money became available.
Okay, thank you. By Protect Cell, we had briefly discussed this last month. I am also sorry that Daryl's not here for this because I know she would have ideas, but have you all had a chance to review the township's By Protect Cell policy and the criteria that we used last time? And maybe Tim, you want to start us off on this. Are there things that you see in the other materials that you provided to us that we should consider?
Yeah. Last night I was at the, and Janine was there too, and so was Jan at the Huron River Watershed Council's, Suds on the River, they call
A
it.
great night for it.
Only it wasn't on the river.
It was in the watershed.
In the watershed.
You did a very good job of explaining the why of the place. Where was it? It was in Chelsea. At Farm.
Yeah, it's worthwhile going to, but standing out to me was Rebecca Esselman's talk. she is the executive director, and she gave a really good talk about, many resources have been taken away from groups like ours, here on the Watershed Council, included Legacy Land Conservancy, countless others. And she talked about that's not the end of the story, and we can and should begin to mobilize, family trusts, and there's a lot of wealth in this watershed. Correct me or add on, Janine, there's a lot of wealth, not only among families and citizens, but corporate citizens. There's a lot of wealth in our corporations, and Legacy had a lot of financial feet cut out from underneath them. I'm sorry, not Legacy, but Legacy for sure did. I met Huron River Watershed Council, and Legacy's, the cuts from the federal government affect us pretty deeply too. But I was impressed by her remarks, and they may be on the Huron River Watershed Council website as a transcript. I don't know, but she gave an excellent talk, and I think it was inspiring, and I encourage everybody to take a look at it if you can. So I do think.
Tim, are you going on to something else, or can I add one thing to what you're sharing?
Yeah, please.
So I do think that it was an
Recording in
interesting
progress.
spot as a place, because one of the things she was emphasizing is that so much of the land that's impacting the river, right, and that's part of the watershed matters a lot, right? So the work of this commission, the work of our township, other townships to preserve land absolutely ties into the health. We all know this, right? And I think she was just saying to Tim that, like, we should definitely be just thinking about ways in which we can all be, aligning around our organizational goals and efforts just at a time when resources feel scarce. Like, how can we think about different ways to collaborate and coordinate and think about the future and what might be possible from a financing perspective? And I don't know that, shortage of funds may or may not be our issue. I mean, we've got some funds to work with, but I think in terms of like, what you're saying about like connecting other, like land, it's also not just going it alone, right? It's trying to do it in partnership with others, which I think Barry, you've done a great job of helping us think about, right? The bigger picture. So anyways, that's all I've had.
Yeah, and so the Watershed Council, the watershed is greatly affected by the work that we do here with protecting, forests and open land, and the work that we have done and will be doing to attract good farming, farms that, enrich the soil instead of mine it, and do things that would negatively affect the watershed and the soil. So, like you just said, there's a lot of connections, and we should, particularly now, think about ways to connect them in terms of the work that we do and the, outreach that we need to do.
So
Okay.
Tim, you were involved very closely in our last Buy, Protect, Sell
Yeah.
project. And so you're, at least, we all had to review it, but pretty familiar with the criteria that we used and the policy. So in looking at those again, 2.5 years later, are you seeing things that we are missing when we, in our policy or in our criteria, or
Yeah,
do you
so,
think it'll work for us again, or where are you?
well, I think we need to brush it up and think about it. more completely in terms of the, whatever legal considerations we need to be aware of in terms of.
And so when you say legal, what do you need? As we
I
evaluate.
don't know for sure, but I think that we need to be sure that what we're doing and the choices that we make in our BPS process are not leaving the LPC and the township open to any kind of a lawsuit
That's
due
great.
to the people are not chosen for. So transparency, I've written down the primary things that are in that group that comes from Jefferson Land Trust. Not so much the stuff that comes from the AFT, American Farmland Trust, but that it, if you look at the AFT thing, which is the link, if you look at that and go through it, there are a lot of really great statements that make it clear what the kind of values we are, at least what they have written down that they represent. And they're very much, I think, the ideas that we represent. And Barry, you wrote the policy, right?
And Jacqueline,
Yeah, and you did a good job with that. And I don't think we need to add much to that. The main things that stand out to me from the Jefferson Land Trust, so items 2, 3, and 4, there are all Jefferson Land Trust documents, and there are others within that. If you look at this Jefferson Land Trust by Protect South, that item number 2, there's an overview, which is good.
Yep.
The overview and the general summary and so on, that's good. And there's a list of 7 or 8 items, including timeline, forming a planning committee, forming a selection committee. And I want to talk about those a little bit, but the things they concentrated on were transparency, inclusiveness, equitable process, and particularly with an eye toward underserved populations. And the process should be repeatable, and it should include values for the community and the environment, our ecosystem. And it should include collaboration. That's what they've found. They've done 7 or 8 up there in Washington, the Jefferson Land Trust. And these are the important things that they've noticed need to be part of the value system. So collaboration among shareholders and
The shareholders.
I'm sorry, not shareholders, stakeholders.
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 So what, in this context, what?
Stakeholders include farmers, and grocery retailers perhaps, and organizations like the Washtenaw County Conservation District, and possible sources of financing, business acumen, and this is the MSU extension, possibly somebody from a grocery, Argus Farm Stop perhaps, but for sure farmers. So I think we got to be clear on our values and whether we want to include all of those primary values that the Jefferson Land Trust lists or not. We're in a different environment than the group in Washington is. That both the community environment is different and the makeup of the population is different. But I think we need to just be very clear on the values that we want to represent as we go about the BPS process.
To that point, so I guess I'm just drilling in a little bit further to what you're saying, Tim. So if you look at the ranking criteria that were linked in the agenda that come from that guidebook. When I looked at those ranking criteria and then I went to our document that Liz shared, which is the criteria for evaluating proposals. I think what I'm hearing you say, Tim, is that like you need to make sure that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things are listed in our criteria align up with our values. And that we're as explicit as we can be about what those values are. So for example, I'm not sure I see how land stewardship and conservation, like our values around this program tied to land stewardship and conservation. I'm just not sure I see like the direct line of sight between criteria related to that and what is in our criteria. That's just one example of a place to look a little more closely. And I also think you're raising an important question around if and how equity and equitable access to this property and the resource generation therein, like how we think about equity from a values perspective. Like it shows up in our sustainability task force and the climate action plan, you know, very clearly. How do we incorporate equity into?
Yeah. Yeah.
From both, you know, from a process, I hear you saying it's both a process thing. And there's also like, is it a value? There's some value associated with that we need to make sure is expressed in the criteria.
If you haven't looked at it, there is the direction from the Jefferson Land Trust is that there should be a planning committee established right away when there's BPS possibility with a piece of ground. There should be a planning committee, probably made up of representatives from here, but that could be broader. But beyond that, there is a selection committee,
It is separate from the planning committee.
which is separate from the planning committee. And the selection committee is comprised of all of the stakeholders that I mentioned. That's what they recommend, is make sure you get, you know, good representation from the various significant stakeholders in the, you know, the values and the you know, result of what the BPS intends.
So that means we would be working with people that are not necessarily on this
Right.
commission, we would be working with people in the community.
But a farmer, if
Yeah.
we decide that's what we want to adopt what the Jefferson Land Trust has recommended. Put into a very good set of documents, including a timeline document that's pretty good. And the planning committee, what that job is, the selection committee, how to go about that. A bunch of examples of their RFPs, requests for proposal, and they recommend doing a pre-application, you know, from the people who respond and narrowing those applications down to 2 or 3 or 4 for the final full proposals from those. And that we, in alignment with our values and are clear, and this is a very transparent process, very much above board, and you know, we choose a winning candidate.
Well, the only other point I want to add into this is that they also have this equity and access fund. And I know that we don't have anything like that, but aren't there some funds out there that are intended to create greater access for farmers of color, for example, or others who just don't have the economic means. So I'm really curious how that their equity and access fund syncs up with, you know,
Yep.
their
Yeah.
process, like
Yeah.
where that fits in. Cause it
American
sounds like it's
Farmland
additional funds
Trust
that they're
also.
leveraging, right? It sounds like it's a fund with some additional equity and access funds that connects into the other forms of.
Yeah,
Finance.
they've got, there's a separate organization in Washington that provides those funds. It's not the Jefferson Land Trust that
Right.
comes up with those funds. But the American Farmland Trust also has some grant awards that they offer to farmers, and the AFT operates like we do, like Legacy does. They, get partners and protect pieces of property, and they go through BPS procedures. What I want to say. I'll come back to the point, but yeah. So if it's interesting and eye-opening to some degree to go through those documents that the Jefferson Land Trust puts out to the community of, conservation groups around the country, as well as the American Farmland Trust people. So I think that's all I need to say about it.
Thoughts?
Transparency is one of the primary points that I think we need to be sure we're.
Yeah, that's a good one.
A couple of thoughts. I think our first BPS we did without RFP. There was, I think, and there was some question. In fact, I think that anyway.
Yes.
You mean,
Yeah.
we did do it without, we had an RFP for rents?
Could we have an RFP for
Friends
rent?
of
We
Trust.
did for rents.
We did
That's
for
correct.
rents.
That's the first, after we established a policy and a procedure to review applications and set out the RFPs
Yeah.
and so forth. The first one that we did along those lines was the honeybee.
Oh, okay, okay.
Put it
That
out
was-
publicly.
Yeah, before I was around, yeah.
I think what makes it easy to do an RFP is if the township has already bought the property and conserved it. Because I think before the bee farm, it hadn't been bought yet, so we didn't really want to advertise that it was for sale, right? Is that why we didn't do an RFP?
We bought the property. The 160 acres. And we, there was
There was an understanding.
there was a section in the Farm Bill from 2018 that allowed for buy, protect, sell projects and it was the legislation. And so we thought that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna apply for an easement on that basis that we had bought the property as a municipality, but that we were going to sell it to somebody ultimately. Right. And get federal funds to fund the easement that we would sell and then convey the property to somebody else. But when the rules came out to interpret the legislation, that opportunity was not eligible for municipalities. And so that put us in a bind, because we dropped $2.3 million to buy that property.
Right.
Most of which was from the dedicated millage, but it was a loan from the general fund for, I think, 200,000.
Right.
But nevertheless, we had collectively spent well over $2 million for that. We're like, crap, how do we get out of this? And then in that case, it was Richard Andrews happened to call me on the phone and said, I'm looking for a property. I got $600,000. Do you own anything? And I said, and this was in 2020 when things started to shut down, and we canceled some meetings. We had special meetings. We were all spread out this room. We sold the property to them, and just in time, within days of being able to apply for the federal grant programs with them as the owner.
Right.
So
That's what it was. Okay.
yeah. But then subsequent to that, there was comments, rightfully so, that there should be a public process. And so a bunch of us developed that process. And then when the Renz property came along, we implemented that.
Yeah, and I was not here at the time. How did we do that? Because did the township buy the Ren's property and then do the RFP?
So we entered into two purchase agreements. One was for the conservation easement and one was for the fee simple interest in the property after the easement was in place. And we transferred that latter one. Once we identified Vestergaard as the purchaser, then we transferred that interest,
Very
that,
simple title.
well, that's the title. So we never took title to the property,
Oh, okay.
but we had a purchase agreement, bore the title to the property that we assigned to Vestergaard.
Okay.
So we bought the easement and then Vestergaard bought the property subject to the easement at closing in two different transactions.
So is that the way you see any future BPS going? Because I gathered that, before you answer that question, it was my understanding that Jackson, the land trust, that they bought the property and then did an RFP. Did I misunderstand that?
Well, you outlined three different possibilities, right?
No, I'm talking about the,
Jefferson.
the Jefferson people.
I think that they also outlined three different, it's either the AFT or Jefferson outlines different ways that it can happen.
My concern is, and tell me if I'm wrong, if we advertise that this 100-acre parcel is for sale, and we ask farmers to RFP us before we own it, what prevents the developer from coming in without, and it doesn't have a conservation easement on it yet. What prevents a developer from coming in and say, I'll give you $2 million for that? They're only gonna give you $1 million, I'll give you 2.
Purchase
It's loan. Loan property.
Yeah, sure.
So, that's my concern. How do we prevent that? Or is that not a concern?
So, sure, it's always a concern. There are a couple of ways. One is that we actually do buy the property. Right. And own the property and then put it out. But Tim just said on the other one was that we don't necessarily have to own the property. We can enter into purchase agreement.
Like rents.
That, yes, where the property is not conserved yet, but is not on the market either. And still go through the process, which, it buys us the time to be able to identify the buyer and go that route.
What prevents, so the purchase agreement, what prevents the seller from selling it to somebody else?
It's because it's binding on,
It is a binding document.
oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
but usually for a set period of time, it might be 6 months or something.
Right, yeah, okay. Mhm.
But during that time, they cannot enter into other agreements to sell the property.
So then we have an issue. We need to find a buyer within that 90, 120, 180 days, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We need to find a buyer for that, or we're on dock for the whole thing.
Or we lose it potentially.
Okay, yeah, or we lose it, all right. Okay. The other question I have, you mentioned the underserved, I think you said the underserved population. That to me sounds like DEI, which is now against federal, or being expunged everywhere in the country, even here in the University of Michigan.
Mhm.
And so how do we get around that? Because if we're only going to look at the underserved community, how do we prevent the overserved community coming in and saying, wait a minute, I want to bid on that property
Yeah,
too.
I think the Jefferson Land Trust folks did indicate that that was the only direction they were looking.
No,
They just wanted to make sure that they were serving the entire population and not.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, I think it's great if we can have some farmer starting out, a young, maybe like one of the wing kids who wants to have his own farm, but he doesn't have a lot of capital. And I think that's a great thing, but what prevents, what's the fella who owns all kinds of farms comes in and I'm just, I guess we have to develop a policy where we somehow
We make
can
clear our
can
value.
we show favoritism to the little guy without invoking federal or
Right.
state
Well, I don't think,
issues.
yeah, we wouldn't say that. I mean, I think that would be the part of our select, so if we were to decide to have some sort of selection committee, the selection committee would take various factors into account without saying, we're gonna limit our candidates to only this group of people. And Tim was saying, I think, I liked it, your pre-application period, we had a number of applications and it did take some time to go through all of them in detail if we had.
And they were all
But
full
they-
proposals.
And they were full proposals and they were comprehensive and they were good.
That's for rents.
Yes, and there were 7 of them, I think.
So they
and-
recommend a pre-application, simple
Yes,
one.
and so that's to me, without going into, I think you're right about the language. I think, you know, in order to avoid problems, we just wanna, you know, work with the laws as they are now and not just, we wanna have our values and we wanna put it in language that coincides with federal law in some way. There's
Yeah.
probably a way to do that. People and organizations are figuring out ways to do that.
Well, and I think it's also important just to be clear that what we're looking to do is not necessarily give greater priority to criteria that have to do with things like maybe somebody doesn't have access to capital, right? Like in their, so their capital bases for all kinds of reasons, they haven't had access to capital. So like, is there a way, do we still consider that person against a bunch of other criteria, right? Like it's creating as inclusive of a process as possible without making it seem like we're picking and choosing winners based on
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 criterion, you know, and so
However,
the other thing that I think is interesting is the BPS plus. They also provide some supports, right? Like some resources to make sure that once somebody is in the door, that they also like, that they're gonna be successful, right? And I'm not saying we have the resources to do that, but I do think there's something to that as well, like,
Sure.
right?
That's what the American Farmland Trust does. They've got a long history of working with farms and so on. So
Yeah.
they've got the big staff and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They can do that. I don't think that's in our basket, providing that. I want to point out, they strongly recommend doing these BPS deals, beginning them early fall.
Yeah.
So that, you know, after you go through the initial process, the farmers have time, winter time, to put their plans together. The farmers who want to come in and buy your piece of ground, they have time.
Oh, ideally,
They
yeah.
don't in the summer.
Because that's their downtime.
Right. And then they can plan ahead for the next growing season when they're gonna be moving to a new property and so forth, rather than in July or in April even, you know, it's not good timing, but sometimes it's just a matter of when things come together also.
Yeah,
And
it is, but we've got some properties coming up
Yeah.
that could be there, and could be the right timing.
And again, reading the Jefferson thing, its focus is directed, and presuming you're also planning this on farms. Not someone who wants to simply conserve it and restore it. And restore it to a native or natural, to one of the pre-European settlement. Just you want people who are specifically aimed at farms. Is that
Or
correct?
the buy, protect, sell.
For a 5% sell program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and using agricultural easements and which are easements on properties that specify, Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, an agricultural easement specifies agricultural use. And, you know, some things about what you can't do and can't do and dump it up and.
One of the businesses or one of the things that the Levine sell are seeds. So is that considered farming?
Sure. It's an agricultural use of the property.
So you could plant a prairie and harvest the seeds and sell them.
Sure.
And could you plant prairie just for what wildlife and we would not consider this proposals? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. If somebody wanted to, like what I've done, restore a prairie
Right.
for native environment, I would not be considered for a BPS, I assume.
I think that's a limitation that we focus strictly on farms and especially considering sustainability and climate and the need for more of a vegetation for carbon. I can't say the word, but yeah. You know, that maybe we need to take a broader stroke.
Well, farms are not necessarily environmentally friendly.
I know, that's why I think your point is very well taken.
Some
But part of our value, I think, is encouraging a farm that is not damaging to the soil, not damaging to the watershed. The water, our water system, our environment, not damaging. That would be part of our value system.
And that's what we did with the Ren's property.
Yeah.
There were a number of things that we asked them for. It was show us you've got experience, show us some references, show us you've got the financial capabilities, which maybe not everybody has.
Show us what you plan to do in terms of outreach with the community.
And what you plan to do with the property, you know, what it is that you're actually gonna grow. We put an emphasis on local food production with that one. And what you're gonna do with conservation of the property also. So, you know, that on the Ren's property, there was a number of large walnut trees, you know, and some, you know, hedgerows between fields. And we said, you can't, we actually wrote that into the easement. You can't take those down. You can't make a bigger field. You have to keep those in place. That's part of the scenic aspects. It's got some wildlife habitat. And you can manage the woods of the property, but you know, those big walnuts are awfully nice. So, you know, we wanted to see what they were gonna do from a conservation standpoint also.
And what we did use was a Qualtrics form so that we would have a paper trail so that we could have the data behind everything. So we would weight each one and we could have a numeric score at the end. And it was hard because two of them came almost nose to nose. I think it would be helpful the next time if maybe even we could use Scio Township IT to develop a scoring system rather than I kind of use U of M's Qualtrics system, which I technically am not supposed to be doing that, but it's nice to have a paper trail. So if somebody asked, we've got, well, here's the data, here's the scoring.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and we had that.
And we've got it, and I think it works. Maybe we add a couple more questions that are related to transparency or sustain, you know, like you said, just clean it up a little bit, maybe.
And yeah, and I think there are possibly, you know, some legal questions about transparency and what has to be transparent, what doesn't. But, you know, protecting the township and the people involved in the process.
It's a great point. What is the board's position on us forming committees within our group? Like a planning committee like Tim's talking about? Can we do that without, can we just do that ourselves or does the board have to review
Yeah, I
that
think so.
down?
And I told the committee doesn't have to follow OMA because they don't make decisions, so.
Right.
And all they are is just fact finding. You're talking about like a fact finding commission or?
Well, Tim has talked about two things, so I'm sort of interested in what you all think. A planning committee, which is kind of like the overview, and then the selection committee, which would have various
Oh.
community
Oh.
input, community partners input. So then we would have to invite people with some sort of agricultural interest or knowledge or background in to be participants in the selection
Okay.
process.
And I think what we have to do is put together the plan, the BPS, what we're thinking about, the planning committee, the selection committee, and what our selection criteria is, whatever it is. Go to the board and say, here's our plan for BPS. So I don't think we can select a planning committee or select a
Yeah,
selection committee. I think we can just put together, here's here's the structure of BPS. Board, and we'll have a board member perhaps on the selection committee.
So
Board
we
member
would
on the selection committee.
the formation of the planning committee and the selection committee. We would execute.
Well, I think that would have to be how we would probably have to put a plan together. I don't know. I'm
Barry, you have a problem?
The bylaws state, the commission, LPC, may establish committees whose members shall be members of the LPC and other consultants or members approved by the township board.
okay. Well, okay. That certainly is, in my opinion, that's like a generic committee. I don't know if that's speaking specifically about this committee, the planning committee and the selection committee. Could be, I don't know. But certainly,
If we are inviting outside people in, I think I can see how the board would want to
If-
be
if
involved
we-
in that. Is
if
that,
we
but
go
is that
that
what you're, if that's what, is that what you're suggesting that we do to actually break the process into two parts, or it just
I don't know
discuss
that.
for now,
I
or?
don't know.
Yeah, it's just something to consider, I suppose.
Lengthens it out.
It does, it does.
Seven people on
It's
selection.
a first step, just having a smaller group of us do what David's suggesting. Come up with a proposed structure, any revisions we think need to be made to the process and the policy. And
and take our,
and bring that back to this group, and then we can vet it together and then approach the board just to make sure they're on board with.
Clear on the
how we wanna
values
move
that
forward.
we want to. You know, Barry's done a good job of laying those out, but is it clear enough and is it complete enough?
take the township's BPS policy and merge in the things we, what you're talking about, the values and such. Build onto that, the concept of the selection committee, the what do you call it? Committees,
Planning.
the various committees, and take it to the board and say, here it is.
Would you be willing, you and maybe Dave, would you be willing to work on that? Or
I'm happy to work on it.
would you?
I'd like help from Barry too.
And Barry,
If he's
yeah,
available.
cool, Barry,
Yeah,
but I mean, yeah. It could be
Which is
Barry.
similar to what we did the last time.
Yeah, but this is more like putting together, this is what Barry and Jacqueline worked on last time. It's kind of just an update and
Right, and
based on some new considerations, or,
I think what we're saying is, this is the township's policy, do we like it?
yeah, yeah,
And if we like it, or do we need to beef it up a little bit?
right.
And I don't think that policy doesn't speak anything about committees to select or committees to plan, planning committee or selection. Not in there at all, I don't believe.
No, it's not. It was
well,
very,
there is the process outlined.
No,
I'm looking at the policy itself, I think. I'm looking
yeah,
at the policy.
and then just what we did last time was just ask for volunteers within this group. And there was a group of 3 plus Barry who just sat down and looked through everything, and as Lisa said, she put together the scoring data for us.
Got it, okay, but that process hasn't been outlined and it's not
No.
publicly
No, we just kind of,
transparent, okay, got it.
and I like the idea of transparency.
yeah.
It's important.
Can I ask another just clarifying question? It hadn't occurred to me that you would use a buy, protect, sell process for anything other than farmland. Are there examples of that? And why would we wanna go in that direction? Cause it
Yeah.
feels like you're then getting in the business of
I-
buying and selling property to somebody like me or David who have turned
Yeah,
their yards into prairies, or, I'm not
have the
sure I
resources to. do
fully
that.
understand.
So I was just trying to get in my head, we're specifically talking about farms.
Yeah, I know, and
the
Lisa raised the
Jefferson-
question of, is that too narrow, and it hadn't occurred to me that you would be doing that
And
process.
Jefferson Land Trust is very clear about the value of supporting farmers who may not be able to acquire land without the BPS process and the conservation part of it. And because of that, they are very clear about supporting new farms. And, they talk about the fact that 40% of of America's farmland is gonna turn over in the next 10 years. And we need farms, and they are clear that they want farms that participate in the local economy, that strengthen the local economy and the local community, not just, and the food supply and like that.
Would you, so
That's one of their
yeah,
values.
this is a good discussion. I want to just note that we're almost at
Yeah, yeah.
5:15. Would you three plus Barry be, okay with getting together maybe once or twice before we meet next and kind of talking through this
Sure.
and seeing what you can come up with and, we can take the time we need. It's not urgent to do right away, but I think you make good points.
Yeah.
Everybody does. And
Sure.
we could get started on it.
Okay.
Right.
Does that work? It's a good discussion and really good points, I think. Particularly, I think the transparency and the sort of objectivity that we're talking about, the way that would be very helpful to nail down, I think.
Values clarity.
The values that we're working with, yeah. Any other thoughts on that right now? Otherwise, I'm gonna ask that we move on.
One
Yes.
clarification.
Yes.
I understand the selection committee was this, a select group of
Of these.
this committee.
Right.
But in the grand scheme of things, the new BPS policy, would you envision having other people besides LPC people?
Well, that's a question for you all, because
It's
Tim
the
said,
Jefferson
yeah, that's
Land
what they
Trust
do.
recommendation.
Yeah, have
Like
like
the
something
election committee that has collaboration.
Argus Farms or,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
something
okay,
like
that's,
that.
that's all.
Community stakeholders.
It's just for discussion
Got it,
right
okay,
now, but yeah, that's one of the questions to ask.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Okay. Okay, this is my same item D that I've had in here. So just remember to send your letter of interest. Attendance on October 9th. Does anyone know that they will not be here on October 9th? You know that, okay. I knew that.
Highly likely I will not.
Okay. So that's okay, we can still make it work if everyone else is here. Okay,
As far as I know, will be here.
okay. All right. New business. So this is, Barry put this together for us. I would almost recommend that this is what we had proposed, that we would invite the board in and we would sort of talk through our criteria, what we use to evaluate different types of properties as we score them. We aren't quite there yet. The board's not here. I haven't invited anybody. And we've had a good discussion of Life Protect Cell today. So what do you think about maybe pushing this item to October?
So this is basically reviewing the questions you ask us when we score properties.
Well, and what we use, yeah, exactly.
Scoring system, right,
Right.
okay.
So Barry sent, he has 2 documents in here that I sent out to you all.
Right.
And that we just need to talk about, but maybe not on the same day as I Protect Cell. And really, my idea initially is just to talk about this with us here and invite anyone who wants to join to come hear us or, be on the Zoom, just to understand how we go about it. And is actually a system that's well thought out and that, we've given a lot of consideration to. And to see if people have questions or think we should add something.
Well, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Barry, these selection criteria is like 20 years old?
2012.
Okay.
Yep.
In your mind, do you think it needs overhauling, revamping, new questions, old questions, removed questions? Is it sufficient? I guess is my question. Let me put it a different way. We had the 2 documents, the farm, the agriculture and because there's open land, open space. And we sent that to the board members and said, let's, the board and the LPC sit down and discuss this and explain it to the board so they understand it. And have them critique it if they will, ask questions, whatever. But obviously give them a week or two to read through them, hopefully they would. Rather than us trying to go through them and change them, my thought was to present it to the board and say, here's what we do. Here's how it's done. Here's what we ask. Is there anything, Mr. Board Member or Mrs. Board Member, that you'd like us to add or delete?
So
I
what do
think
you,
that's an excellent.
What do you think about that idea?
Sure.
Because I don't think they haven't got the foggiest idea.
No,
Well, some of, John was on the LPC, wasn't he? Did he-
yes, so
Did he
he's,
actually go through a scoring process?
yes, I'm sure he's in.
Okay, all right. So
Yeah.
John might know.
Yeah, but everybody else besides you.
Right.
Has not done that.
So I think it's some,
I mean, if you, do you think that would work? That seems okay.
Yeah. I think it's, if you want to get on the agenda, sometime I can come in and do
Yeah,
a 10-minute presentation and say, this is how we get to deciding which properties we're gonna pursue and ultimately to bring to the board of trustees to say, this is where we think we should spend money.
because you said board members had some questions already. So, yeah,
I think they have questions, several questions, like how do we select a property?
okay.
Do we try to, like, the connectivity, get the properties
Yeah.
together? So do we reject a piece of property because it's a standalone way off, too small, or so, you know, that type of thing?
Yeah.
1.5 acres, do we really want to conserve 1.5 acres when it's in the middle of nowhere and not connected to anything? It's one thing if it connects two huge parcels, but you know what I'm saying? So
Sure.
they want to know why we do what we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you okay with doing that, Mary?
Sure.
Now, the question is, here's, if we put our selection criteria in the board packet, presumably everyone will read it, you can do a presentation. But that's not what I mean, that to me is step one.
Okay.
Step two is sit down with the boards, and maybe they won't have questions, but there might be a step
They'll
two.
have some, I bet
There
you.
might be a step two.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
they will have some questions, I'm sure.
questions, yes, but, yes.
I could even run them through, one of our current properties, like the Hicks property.
Yeah,
And say, here's how these different criteria get scored.
Okay. And I think this might not be for another month or so, because I think
Yeah.
the agenda's.
Well, David, how about submitting what we have to the board?
Yep.
And asking for feedback and waiting 2 weeks or whatever period is for that feedback, get it some kind of form, and then we take that and see if we're already covering that or whatever, and then we submit any changes.
I'd like for Barry to sit down with the board though, to do an actual formal presentation.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the background
And
to allow him to answer maybe some of the questions they have in a comprehensive enough way that we may be ready to just move forward, in minimizing some of these concerns.
And are we talking about sharing both the scoring system summary document that Barry shared with us as well as the criteria? It seems
I
like
would say
those are.
yes. Yeah.
And the process around, like, we score and then that score goes into a whole other process, right? You've actually kind of outlined the process and we've made that public, right? Like
Yeah.
okay, yeah, so this is a piece of the overall bigger process
Yeah.
that you've actually put to paper,
The scoring of an individual property
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
not public information
right?
until we enter into a purchase agreement, then everything about that property is public. So if somebody says, tell me the score for the Hicks property, I can give that to them.
Yeah.
But if they say, what about for 2025-2? Well, we're still in negotiations about that, so I have a score, I'm not sharing it.
Yeah.
Yes,
And I think it's a good idea to put all this in front of the board. Get feedback, not only because it's just a good idea to do it for participation wise, but we might find some valuable, insight from.
Do you then want to sort of see when a good time would be for Barry to present, you have to make sure he's in town and stuff, and then we can get, I mean, you have these documents. And you can put them in the board pack or whatever, and, you know, I might come just for interest. But, is that a good place to start? Maybe if, even if it's, you know, in October sometime, whenever suits the board.
And I'm around pretty much now.
Okay.
All right.
Sound like a plan, everybody?
Here's
Yeah.
old school.
Okay. Okay, good deal. All right, now, where are we? Oh, Barry, we're at your open session
Yes.
consultants report, yes.
Yes. So I actually just heard from Susan LaCroix at Legacy. I'm not going to be testifying at this meeting, but it is on September 22nd at 10 a.m. I asked her to send me the link for it if y'all want to
Great,
tune into it. They decided, their attorney recommended that it just be the executive director, Diana Kern, that provides testimony. So we'll see where that goes. The Blue Belt, the expansion of the Green Belt from Ann Arbor is supposed to be online. Actually, it's today, I believe, is when the Green Belt Commission is meeting, and I think we'll be approving the criteria for selecting properties outside of the Green Belt boundary, which is the equivalent of Stabler Road here in Scio Township. So the Blue Belt will cover the other what is that, third of the township, more or less, everything west over to Parker Road. And we have some properties that may be of interest to them. So hopefully that will be online very soon. A quick update on the ongoing PA 116 issue. There's still some work on legislation. But one great piece of news was that I got a couple of calls one morning a few weeks ago from a couple of the landowners that I've been talking to, one in Ann Arbor Township and one I think is in Freedom Township, who had not received their tax payments, tax refunds, I should say, for 2023 and 24. And in one case, the guy from Freedom had got letters from the state, one of which said for one of the two tax years that they recalculated his return and was offering him, rather than $10,000, like $150. And sent him a check for that, and which he did not cash. And the second letter said that he owed money. They did a recalculation and he owed money. And he filed an appeal, nothing ever came of it. And then lo and behold, one day, two checks in the Freedom case showed up in the mail for 23 and 24. The folks in Ann Arbor Township got their check for just 23, but it was the full amount that they were owed, which was $11,000, and interest of $1,400.
literally.
So somewhere along the way, somebody said, and we have no idea how this happened. There's been no explanation from MDARD or from the Attorney General's office. But somehow somebody said, this is not acceptable and you gotta pay those people. So they got paid, and I know a couple of people around the state got paid also. We still have one landowner here in our township that filed a lawsuit against the state and has not received her tax credit payment and hasn't heard anything further about the lawsuit other than a call from the Attorney General's office saying we've received the complaint and we want to address this very quickly. These checks showed up not long after that lawsuit was filed, so we suspect that got to the Attorney General's office. They said, "What's this all about now? Wait a second here. It says here that this is binding on the department. Pay those people." We don't know, but at any rate, that was great news. That made my day to get those phone calls. Dave mentioned that the BOT has acted on the Levine access easement abandonment, and I made a note to call Mariah about that. And one thing I didn't mention in my notes, I just realized, was that there will be a farm tour of 3 farms here in Washington County, of conserved farms, on October 4th. And one of which will be the Vestergaard farm. One will be in Webster, Vestergaard here, and then there's another one on the west side of the county somewhere.
Who's leading that?
The Conservation District is the lead agency, but all of us local partners have been participating in the Zooms about that. Legacy and the Greenbelt and the county and county parks.
So do you have to sign up for that, or can anyone go?
It's open to everybody. You do have to pre-register for it. There's no cost involved, but there's limited parking at these farms, and so. I will send you information about that when I get it, so I'll let you know. And then in regards to properties that we have under contract at this point, the Hicks property. I did receive comments on the conservation easement from the NRCS yesterday, I think it was. So I hadn't had a chance to look at those, but basically they said the deed, the easement is approved contingent on accepting all of the comments, and I haven't looked at them all yet, but usually they're fairly minor and can be accepted by all parties, the township, the owner, and our local partners as well. So that's a big hurdle also, and so we're moving ahead with that. And they did, it seems like every time these things come up, there's some new requirement from NRCS that I've never heard of before. This one was a wetland determination on the Hicks property. So that's underway also at this point. It has to be requested by the landowner and has to go to the local NRCS office and blah, blah, blah. It's not a big deal. But
Does he have one?
they did not have one.
Okay.
And so that, my understanding is the local NRCS office provides that. It just hadn't been done, and so John Hicks had to make the request of the NRCS office, and that's underway. That's not gonna hold.
Requested by the owner.
Correct.
Wow.
Yep. Again, I've never seen this before. But there you are. So we're moving ahead on that. We're still looking to close, this year on that one. On Carol Fletcher, the environmental assessment of the site visit was done last week. And the survey visit was on Tuesday, 2 days ago. So we should have the survey data sometime soon, as well as the environmental assessment. As soon as the survey's done, I can go out and shoot the baseline photos. That's the next step in that one. And we'll be closing that one also this year. And finally here, the Peter Hayden easement closed on August 22nd. I sent out a press release. We got, an article in the Sun-Times News, which is the weekly newspaper that goes to Dexter, Chelsea, Saline, and I've been seeing articles about Milan, so maybe it goes to Milan now also. And then I provided you all with an updated expenses and summaries table with all the information on that. So that has the date of the closing, how much money we spent. There was no leverage in this case because we just bought the easement ourselves, and the natural features on the property. So that's out there. That's all public information. It was part of the packet. And that is all for my open session report.
Any questions for Barry on that? Okay, how about your summary of closed session topics?
Yes, let me go to that.
Like they were mostly updates, no action items.
In the
Nothing
closed
to take.
minutes?
Oh, the open.
The open, nothing to take.
For the closed session.
No, he hasn't done
We're not
that yet.
there yet.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I thought that's where we were.
I'm summarizing the closed session
Yeah.
and indicating whether there will be any,
Oh, yeah, he's
I
done.
was repeating what
Oh.
I said. I'm just getting ahead of you, but keep going.
so we've got a property, just to update, the board did approve, as Dave said, the expenditure to purchase the property on Tuesday night. It's not public yet because we don't have a purchase agreement on it. I did send a draft to Township Council today. And so hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll have that under contract as well. But this is an update for now. Another property, we're just waiting for an analysis to be done. The board also approved the purchase of another property. And I made a offer by email to the listing agent on that one today. We'll have some discussion about that in closed session, but there's no action to be taken on that. The board also approved an appraisal on a third property. And that appraisal will be done, at least the site visit will be done on Monday. That's a feasible purchase also. And so once we get the appraisal, which will be before our next meeting of the LPC, we should be able to make the recommendation for the board to purchase that property as well. And then finally, we have another property for which the owner, the board has also approved the expenditure to purchase this easement. And the owner has signed the purchase agreement, and I've left it for the supervisor and clerk to sign today. So that's gonna be underway as well, and we'll close that one as well. So we're looking to close Hicks and Fletcher this year. We've already closed Hayden. And then there will be 1, 2, 3 other properties that will close yet this year. Some of those will be discussed in closed session, but will soon be under contract so we can discuss them in open session. That's the summary. So I don't see any actions to be taken coming out of the closed session.
I just want to say good work on your part. It's taken a lot to get to this point, so it's really great. We haven't closed any conservation easements or purchases since 2022.
Yeah.
So this is very exciting.
Sometimes that's what happens. There's
Yeah.
droughts, and then there's
Yeah, that's right.
active
Well, you
periods.
just never know, right?
That's really sick.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go on to public comments. Jan, yes.
Yeah, your discussion sparked a couple things, so,
Okay.
one, I wanted to, I think this was brought up before, and we haven't gotten the CAD version of it yet, but the Huron River Watershed Council updated their bioreserve map. Okay, so I wanna make sure, you all have that and we have it. And then, in some of our planning commission discussions, it came up how the overlay for preservation and enhancement of natural resources happened. And that overlay started, and that overlay was put in the ordinance in 2018 by the planning commission. And it started with the properties that were designated as at least priority 1 bioreserve properties. But it continued to get negotiated, like take this property out, take this property out, take this property out. And it was done by the planning commission, and then the DOT also took properties out. Those properties was Aubrey's Grove.
Was what?
Aubrey's Grove, the proposed development Aubrey's Grove.
Was taken
So,
out.
was taken out, out of the open. So,
When was that?
this was before it went into effect in 2018. So there are a series of maps that, were negotiated. So it's really come up in some of our conversations that we need to get with you to identify, because it talks about, and in the ordinance, we can update it too, because I think we want to protect the farms that have extremely productive soils too. So there are some things that we can do to, as we're, planning commission is working on ordinances. We're also going to be reviewing the master plan, probably starting next year. So these are some key things, because as there seems to be a good consensus about increasing density and development along Jackson Road and in the sewer district. I'm not saying water district, I'm saying sewer district. And then making sure that we're doing a good job of protecting the natural features and so forth in Scio. So this is one thing that kind of got flagged, and Bob Hyde with his work with the Huron River Watershed Council kind of brought it up and was looking at some of this. So, but this, I would love, someone from LPC to participate in looking at this as we get to that. Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt. Are you done?
Yep, that was what I wanted to,
But I-
I think it's an important kind of historical piece.
You have a question for Jane?
Just a very quick question. You said the sewer district.
Yes,
My understanding, the sewer district is also the same as the water district, but the water district is not the same as the sewer district. Is that true? Everything that has sewer has water, but not everything that has water has sewer.
correct.
Okay,
So that's why I specifically said sewer.
that's all I wanted to clarify.
And what's the timing of this that you'd like to get together?
I think it's gonna be At the rate we're going, once we get the map, that will be a
Okay.
clear indication, and I think it'd be good to put together, a little planning subcommittee to take a look at this, because understanding the history, because when you put an overlay like this over someone's property, it's significant. But I think understanding the history and getting some maps that overlap and understanding better the soils and the productive farmlands,
So you'll let us know.
yeah, but yeah.
So you'd want a volunteer from LPC to join you? Okay,
Mhm.
so we'll talk about that when you let us know, okay?
Yeah, and it'd also be good to, kind of think on what are the, priorities. The second thing was, as you're reviewing criteria or how you're looking at things, do remember that agri-solar now is something that, would be really nice to be able to promote. Maybe not everywhere, but, keep that in your thinking. Yeah, that's where you you're doing either animal grazing or actual farming in between solar production.
That's, from the planning commission. What's it,
Yeah, but I mean, it can be addressed in the conservation easement also
yeah,
to permit that kind of use. And currently, our easements specify that if there's a building envelope, that's where any solar arrays or other renewables have to be located, and it's only for on-farm use. It's not for sale off a farm. And that's the federal grant program's requirements, but if we're not using federal money, it's open. Choose differently in that regard.
Chris, anybody online?
Yes, we have Rob Pattinson.
Okay, hi, Rob.
Here we go. Oh, hi, everyone. Jan, thank you so much for being there. The close cooperation between LPC and planning is a brilliant idea to help, because the LPC needs to know that the planning commission and the board of trustees just went through, well, the planning commission just went through the zoning, and the planning commission is gaining momentum on doing more planning rather than approval of projects. And having the LPC involved in that process of helping the planning commission have a better picture of the future of Scio is just brilliant. Well done. My only suggestion from today's meeting is please put the farm tour thing on the green banner at the top of the Scio website. That's a good place to announce upcoming things that people can attend.
Great idea.
Thanks,
Yep.
thanks for the great meeting. Well done.
Thanks, Rob. Do we have someone that will read our motion to go into closed session?
I will, we move to go into closed session for discussion of pending property evaluations pursuant to section 15.268D of the Michigan Open Meeting Act, specifically to consider the purchase or lease of real property up to the time an option to purchase or lease that real property is obtained.
Is there support?
or
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, we are moving into closed session.
Recording stopped.
Oh, do we have to move that we post Barry's minutes?
Yes, we
Accept
do.
Barry's minutes.
Is there a motion to approve the closed session minutes?
So moved.
Support?
Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, closed session minutes are approved. And we have no actions arising from our closed session discussion. Is there a motion that we adjourn?
so moved.
And I will support. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
You can
Thank you.
Whiskey in the bus.
6 o'clock on the nose.